Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011 he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
A very, very good afternoon, 24th of March 2024. Palm Sunday, I think, for those of you, my Christian friends who celebrate it, and Jesus coming into Jerusalem with a donkey and his imminent death, I think, from my recollection of things to do with Christianity. I know friends of mine collect the palms, they come home from church with that, and then they used to burn it, I think, for Ash Wednesday the following year. So very good afternoon to all of you. Please bear with me. If I'm sounding low, I am tired, I am exhausted, and I will be off next week. For those of you who follow me, I will be off next week. It's Easter Sunday, and I'm hearing there's a Easter egg hunt in my in my daughter's world. So that's where I'll be next Sunday. I'll try and come back on either the Easter Monday or the Tuesday to try and catch up, but I'm not sure when or how that will be, but it'll be on the Monday or a Tuesday. I'll come back and catch up with all of you. A lot's been going on. A lot has been going on, and we've put a lot of content over the last few weeks, and a lot of research to go into that content. Rachel, thank you very, very much for the super chat. Antonia Martin gave me a super chat earlier, and 4 or 5 of you have bought me some coffee, so thank you very, very much to all of you who are supporting me and continuing to support me. We are coming up to the May elections. The nominations open on Tuesday. The forms have come out and the nominations open on Tuesday. So the councillors who are standing from Tuesday, I think, can submit their forms, and there's a small window before that closes. So we'll see how that comes across and how we get what the lay of the land looks like. I'm now 5 years into this campaign, and in that 5 years into this campaign, thank you, Derek, very much appreciated. 5 years into this campaign, I have seen a lot. I have supported so many people. Previous enemies have become friends, friends have become enemies, and some people have done the full 360. But I have been consistent and steadfast throughout all this, and I'll try my best to remain so until the local elections, and we'll, fingers crossed, take it into no overall control. There's a whole host of issues for us to get that far, and I'll get into some of that maybe later on today. But I wanted to start today's meeting. There's something I don't understand. The full council meeting, they did it last year. The full council meeting, after the full council meeting, there's a cabinet meeting before the council closes down. In my very logical mind, it doesn't make sense, because the cabinet meeting should be before the full council meeting, so the cabinet reports to full council, not the other way around. And last year at the cabinet meeting after full council, they slipped the Oldham council, that is, slipped Flat Cap Frank, AROOJ Shah's close friend, the Oldham Athletic owner, £1 million. Well, this year they've done something very similar, so let me bring it up and let's continue with this transmission. So first of all, 925 of you watched me last week, so thank you very, very much to the just under 1,000 of you who tuned into me last week. Some remarkable numbers, I think, for what is essentially just simple political analysis, nothing more complicated than that. And I'm going to keep interrupting and doing this as I get them through. So Sue, thank you very, very much for the £2 super chat. £2, £1.99 makes no difference to me. It all makes a massive difference to me. It's how I keep my lights on. It's how I keep going. It's how I broadcast these transmissions. We put them out free to air. We try our best at the moment. I wasn't going to put this one out free to air, but I met with Louise last night, and Louise asked me if I'd put this one out free to air. So I said, yeah, sure, no problem. So I came home and then just shared the links, and I think I got the date wrong on the email that went out, but my apologies for that. I didn't get in until after 4 in the morning, which is where I was in terms of a whole host of meetings. So the cabinet meeting runs backwards. The cabinet meeting runs after the last council meeting, and when you follow work for a while, you start to see a pattern. What these people do in the cabinet meeting is as far as I'm concerned, they hand out bribes. £1 million, sweeteners, things to make them look good, whatever your terminology is. But this is a council on the verge of bankruptcy, playing fast and loose with your money. And they've handed out this, last year they handed out £1 million. And this year they've handed out £3 million to Bluecoat School. And apparently it's an investment. Let me show you something. So this £3 million that they've handed out. Apparently secondary school rescued after £3 million investment. It's a complete puff piece. It's a lie. It's an outright lie. A secondary school in Oldham that risked losing valuable teaching spaces and faced having to splash pupil admission numbers has been rescued thanks to a £3 million investment. I have an issue with this. I have a massive issue with this, and I will share it with you after I thank David Nestor for the £5 super chat. I went to see David earlier on this week, didn't I, David? We were collecting signatures for Nick, who's standing to be mayor. So Nick had called me and asked if I'd collect the 10 signatures for Oldham. So I went round and collected signatures, and David was one of them. So I thank you, David, for doing that for me. My issue with Bluecoat is simple. Bluecoat has an intake of 65% from Oldham. So 35% of students from Bluecoat who go to Bluecoat aren't from Oldham, and it's an outstanding school and it's great. No criticism there. And good luck to any of you who can manage to get your child into there. And you get your child into there by jumping through hoops of going to church. Some people are genuinely Christian and go to church. Many friends like that, and some people play the game. Again, I accept that. We make sacrifices for our children. That's not my criticism here. What my criticism here is this £3 million. This is the actual report to cabinet paper, and I want to take you through this. So, long and short of it, Bluecoat have a block of teaching classrooms somewhere, and apparently those teaching classrooms were now dilapidated, and if it wasn't for immediate investment, they'd have to cut some numbers. I have no issue with them cutting an intake if they were cutting the intake from outside of Oldham. Why should Oldhamers, why should you and I pay for students in a school? And by the way, this is an academy. Why should you and I pay in an academy where our children who are allowed to go have to jump through hoops to go to? And there's a whole host of other schools out there who need investment. And once again, as with the flat cap Frank episode, there was no application process, there was none of that. Just some secret deal was done in a back room, and £3 million of your money was handed over. Now I'm consistent. I've been consistent from the beginning. If you fund a mosque in a dodgy way, I'll call it out. If you're funding a school in a dodgy way, I'll call it out. If you're funding your mates, if you're funding a park, if it's all done in a dodgy way, electioneering, I will call it out. That £3 million should not have been paid out to Bluecoat School, because it didn't go through what I refer to as due process. Now, this is the reason for the decision, and I'll bring it up. Apparently, Bluecoat needed £3.5 million for capital works. And in the end, what the council decided to do was give them £1.84 million as a loan and 1.169 as a grant, with Bluecoat, the trust, a multi-academy trust, a private organisation, just coughing up under £500,000 from their own finances. Now this is where it gets interesting. Bluecoat is part of the Crammer Education Trust. You can see it there, black and white there. This is the council's own paper, operates 5 schools, including the Brian Clark Academy. They've got something called the Rosler block. And just mysteriously, out of nowhere, Blue Coat have decided that the Rosler block will shut down. And it'll result in a reduction of admissions numbers by November 2024. How many, it doesn't say. Why, it doesn't say. There's no risk assessment. No, there's none of that. It doesn't stack up. The council admits that as a multi-academy trust, the Cranmer Educational Trust has a responsibility for the maintenance of the condition of their school estate through funding from the DFE. From next financial year, so we're clear, starts in April. Yeah? We're currently in this financial year. Next financial year starts in April. For schools, the financial year starts in September. So we're talking September 2024. So 4 months' time. 5 months' time. In 4 or 5 months' time, this multi-academy trust becomes eligible for school capital allocations from the Department for Education. This means from September, Blue Coat could have gone directly to the government, the Department for Education, and secured this money. So if Blue Coat could have gone directly to the government and secured this money in September, why is the council handing over £3 million of your money without any due process? Why? Why? Sorry, David, and June, of course, and June. David and June. Well, sorry, David, it was your name who popped up. June needs to get her own YouTube account and maybe say hello. Thank you to Denise for the super chat, and thank you to Sue for the super chat as well. Thank you very, very much. Blue Coat should not have been paid this money. They could have gone directly to the government next year. Blue Coat is an exclusive establishment. The majority of Oldhamers are excluded from it, and that doesn't take away from the excellent work it does. It's the only outstanding secondary school in Oldham. Well, maybe it's the only outstanding state-sponsored secondary school in Oldham because of the way it operates its admissions policy. The Brian Academy Trust, is it the Brian Clark Academy, on the old Sainsbury's site, public land was handed over to them. Millions of pounds worth of public land was handed over to them, and go and speak to my friends in Calder's, in the actual area the school's built, and they'll tell you they can't get their kids into that school. It's wrong. And £3 million by Morn Alley should not have been handed over. And if it was handed over, why was that not raised at the full council meeting? Why wasn't it raised at the full council meeting so other councillors could stand up and question, scrutinise? Why was this just secretly done just before an election? And by the way, for those of you interested, the chair of governors of Blue Coat School is the Deputy Mayor, Eddie Moores. Doesn't stack up, does it? Doesn't stack up. They shouldn't have been paid. They shouldn't have been paid. Particularly as this isn't the first time they were paid this way. 10 years ago, Blue Coat came to the council, cap in hand again in some sort of dodgy way, and £2.2 million was handed over for high-tech classrooms. Again, just handed over your money and our money to a school that operates a discriminatory admissions policy that excludes the majority of Oldhamers. Why is this money being handed over this way all the time? Many years ago, I used to advise a whole host of national trusts and foundations. And I'd watch on as some of these foundations, because we had to drag them kicking and screaming from the world they occupied to the world they needed to occupy, would quietly hand over millions of pounds, tens of millions of pounds, to their pet projects, art projects, theatres, museums, that sort of stuff. Whilst the community projects that they were actually set up to fund, it would, it was like pulling teeth getting them to hand over 1,000, 10,000, 20,000 pounds, but no problem handing over 2 million, 10 million, 20 million to their mates. And it's the same here. There are plenty of other schools in Oldham who would love that sort of no questions asked handing over millions of pounds. These are the schools that your children, my children, your grandchildren go to. It's not on, it's not right. And I say this as, my daughter's mother went to Blue Coat. I have a whole host of friends who went to Blue Coat. I have nothing against the school, I have nothing against the children. I have nothing against the families. But the politics of this is all wrong. And it needs to be called out. Unfortunately, not a single opposition councillor has questioned it. Because they're scared they'll lose votes. They're scared they'll lose votes. In the same way, at the time, this time last year, no one in the opposition questioned the handing over £1 million to Flat Cap Frank. This is a council on the verge of bankruptcy, and this is what they're doing with your money. And worse, the worst thing with this Blue Coat handover is that Blue Coat could have gone directly to the government in a couple of months' time. I have friends of mine who went to the old Saddleworth school. For at least a decade, they operated out of porter cabins. Children started year 7 and left at year 11, operating out of porter cabins. And here you have in Blue Coat, apparently, a teaching block is no longer fit for purpose and they suddenly need £3.5 million. And the council says, here's free. And your guess is as good as mine whether the interest-free loan they'll ever get back. It's not right, is it? And you've got £2.5 million given to them before, and that's just the 2 examples I've come up with. I think a freedom of information request is necessary to draw from Blue Coat how much money they've actually had. I've got Raoul Moat come along, who wants to share with me stuff about Garth Harkness. Of course, I'm banning that account on the basis that these people who come along, and this is the problem with these free transmissions, is, people start to come and share malicious stuff that I just can't have on here, because it won't be fake Raoul Moat who gets called to the legal action taken against him. Well, it's easy hiding behind fake accounts, lads. It's easy hiding behind fake accounts. Yeah, Eddie Moores is on the board. Eddie Moores is on the board. So that's Blue Coat done. I wanted to get that out of the way first. I know a couple of you contacted me to say, are you sure about this information? I'm like, yeah, 100% sure about this information. I've got the council paperwork. I've also got the paperwork from 10 years ago. Now, if I'm handing over millions of pounds to the only outstanding school, those millions of pounds would come with conditions. And the condition would be, we're handing you over millions of pounds. We want guarantees that you'll take 10, 20, 30, 40 children from Oldham who otherwise couldn't apply and get through your convoluted admissions policy or your restrictive admissions policy. What's wrong with that? It's your money. We move on to the news of the week. Oldham Council leader hits back at racist and violent online abuse. This is AROOJ SHAH, crocodile tears, crying wolf, misogynist, racist, sexist, Islamophobic. Any, if she was a lesbian, she'd come out with some sort of criticisms around sexuality. If there's an ism that she can jump on and use, she's jumped on it and used. Remember when she first got elected in Glodick? She got elected off the back of Pakistani men and women voting for her. Then when she was, beaten by Aftab, who now she's pally with, by the way, she claimed it was misogyny. When she was beaten by Indeed. Hang on whilst I get my tissues and samosas. When she was beaten by Robert Barnes, she claimed we were all racists. Yet, when she went back to stand in St Mary's last year, she did not run a campaign standing alongside any white people, and she did not run a campaign standing beside women. She went back to the Pakistani men that she claimed she was misogynist, and she demonstrated what she really thinks of racism by excluding white people from her campaign. So now, just a couple of weeks before the election, Oldham Council leader hits back at racist and violent online abuse. Now, I've got the letter in full, but I'll go through this. First, the article. Charlotte Hall, by the way, is the new Charlotte Green. Nothing to do with Oldham. Another one of those fake liberal wannabes from Charlton or Heaton, Mersey, or Didsbury away. So that's where she's from. The council leader is responding to a spike in online harassment. A spike means it's gone up. Online harassment. You'll have to quantify the spike. We'll see. She can't quantify the spike. Claiming behaviours during council meetings have encouraged, enabled and emboldened online racists and abusers. Remember, but this is the woman who falsified evidence against me, tried to take me to court, had me charged, had me arrested and ran away from testifying against me. This is who AROOJ SHAH is. In an email directed to all councillors, Councillor AROOJ SHAH called for a more inclusive and welcoming politics in Oldham. A more inclusive and welcoming politics in Oldham. The Oldham Labour leader linked a recent surge in online hate. Again, the Oldham Times cannot quantify this so-called recent surge. It's completely fabricated, by the way. To a tumultuous full council meeting last week, where members were frequently heckled by councillors and a public audience. Okay, are we now saying we can't go to council meetings? Councillors heckled other councillors. The public here in the meeting had gone, in the main, to hear a motion on CSE. A motion that AROOJ SHAH and her friends filibustered, delayed, and 4 hours later, Councillor Brian Hoban, who was taking the motion, and Councillor Lucia Ray were prevented from speaking on the motion. Why is Charlotte Hall omitting that? That survivors of the grooming gangs, family members and their supporters sat through a council meeting for 4 hours, politely, civilly. They were very civil because even the mayor, towards the end of the meeting, said the public gallery had been very well behaved. Even the mayor acknowledged the public gallery had been very well behaved. The meeting was never stopped, as it has been in the past. There was none of that. So it's complete fabrication. And Charlotte Hall, your local democracy reporter, is part of this. But the plea also comes at a moment of heightened awareness of racial discrimination in UK politics. What is the heightened awareness of racial discrimination in UK politics? Oh, last week Diane Abbott was subject to racist comments by a prominent Tory donor. What's that got to do with me or you or any of us that gathered? Keir Starmer was not listening to Labour race advisor Baroness Lawrence. That's Stephen Lawrence's mother. Again, what's that got to do with me and you in Oldham? Are we in any way responsible or linked to what's going on with Diane Abbott and the Labour Party? Of course we're not. Councillor Shah wrote, I am left feeling afraid for my safety and the safety of my family. I am once again pleading with you to stop this sort of politics. What sort of politics does Councillor Shah want to get stopped? The sort of politics where members of the public exercise their right of democracy, lobby their councillors, and their councillors likewise then propose motions to council meetings? Is that the sort of politics she wants us to stop? To speak up against the personalised abuse and attacks that come from within your own groups? Nah. And the background to all of this, of course, is Councillor Shah's got nothing to say about Councillor Nazrul Islam quite happily referencing white people as Goraz in the council chamber. Recorded, proven. He should be suspended, he should be sacked. She won't even say a single word about the anti-white racism blatantly exercised by one of her councillors. Not a single person in that council meeting said anything racist. In fact, the white people there with me clapped, encouraged and supported Cameron Goffor's motion calling for peace, his amendment criticising the Labour Party for playing politics with Gaza. We saw through what the Labour Party were doing, and the white people there clapped and applauded the Pakistani councillor Cameron Goffor. Cameron Goffor likewise supported the call for a CSE inquiry along with his two colleagues, Wahid and Irfan. The first Asian councillors ever to support calls for a CSE motion into the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of little white girls in our town. There was no racism there. The acceptance of racial abuse that we are showing in that chamber, so she's saying it, the acceptance of racial abuse that we are showing in that chamber. What racial abuse was shown in that chamber? Somebody tell me what racial abuse was shown in that chamber. Apart from Nazrul Islam, her colleague, abusing white people. The normalisation of jokes about samosas and mango chutney aimed at Asian councillors takes us back to a time 30 or 40 years ago. No. 30 or 40 years ago, the racist abuse was horrific, and then people would be stamped on the head and Nazi swastikas would be painted on their doors. Samosas and mango chutney is not directed at your Asian councillors, AROOJ Shah, and you know it. You're a blatant liar, Shah. You're an outright liar. Indeed, maybe her machete-wielding friend has left her to her own devices. Indeed, Louise. Indeed, maybe that's the case. She does not like the unity amongst us, Denise. It's not the diversity. She does not like the unity amongst us. She owes it to her community to stand up for what is right and call racism out. Again, what racism was there in the council chamber, regardless of who the perpetrators of it are? The council leader, who's Oldham's first Muslim leader, apparently I making reference to her as Oldham's first Muslim leader is racist, but Charlotte Hall making reference to her as a Muslim leader is not racist, and nor is AROOJ Shah or Irish Imi making reference to her as a Muslim leader racist. But if I say she's Oldham's first Muslim leader, I'm the one that's racist. She wants people to focus on policy and not personality. AROOJ Shah, it was your policy in that council meeting to filibuster. It was your policy to continue to vote down calls for a public inquiry into the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of little white children in our town. That is your policy. As for your personality, I find it offensive, and I think thousands of Oldhamers find it offensive. Sharing a number of the messages she had received online, that level of personalised abuse and targeting has real consequences. Okay, I agree with you, AROOJ Shah. consequences. So let's talk about the blowing up of your car. Who blew up your car, AROOJ SHAH? Who blew up your car? Why was the window smashed after the door was open? Why was the door of your car left unlocked? Why was your car not left parked outside your mum's house as you suggested, as you claimed in your interview later to the Oldham Times to someone? I'm of a mind to start to believe that, just as the comment earlier here that I banned and removed, I'm of a mind to believe that some of these so-called racist abuse comments she's getting are from her own supporter base who are setting up fake accounts. But we'll get to that in a minute. Oldham is better than this. Oldham is better than you, AROOJ SHAH, and we're going to show it you. Divisive and personalised attacks have become the norm in national politics since Brexit. So she's now blaming all of you who voted for Brexit. All of you who voted for Brexit are clearly racists. She's deciding Brexit is the line in the sand, and divisive and personalised attacks have become the norm in national politics since Brexit. We can criticise and debate policy without name calling. Who called her a name in that council chamber? Who called her a name in that council chamber? No one. No one called her a name in that council chamber. Councillors from black and ethnic minority backgrounds should not be subject to racial abuse when doing their jobs. Which councillors from black and ethnic minority backgrounds were subject to racial abuse in that council chamber? None. In fact, it was a councillor from a black and ethnic minority background, Nazrul Islam, who was racially abusive to white people in that chamber. Good afternoon, Gary. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you very, very much. And Faye as well. Thank you very, very much, Faye, for the super chat. Faye bought me some coffees as well in the week, so thank you. I'm very, very grateful. Please, if you're taking value in this transmission, please like, please do share. There's just under 100 of you watching. This is not the first time the council's first Muslim leader has faced abuse and violence online. And offline for that matter. In 2021, during Councillor Shah's first stint as council leader, her car was targeted by a firebomb. Well, Charlotte Hall, have you seen the video footage of her car being targeted by a firebomb? And have you asked her questions? Are you just as bent as the ones who've been before you in the local democracy service? On the council payroll? The journalists were at the meeting, Denise. They were present. You're right. They did not hear a single racist slur from anyone in the public gallery. And yes, it was a raucous meeting, but it was a raucous meeting to the point where even the chief executive told the councillor to sit down and shut his mouth and was forced to apologise. This is where it gets interesting. Mark Hince, the Shaw councillor, the independent group, is it the TIG yet? So the TIG so far, as I'm aware, includes Sandra Ball, Mark Wilkinson and Amoy Lindo. So those are the TIG councillors that I'm aware of after the Right and Independents distanced themselves from Mark Hince. Mark Hince now is rushing to the defence of AROOJ SHAH. And Mark Hince rushing to the defence of AROOJ SHAH isn't Mark Hince the councillor, it is the independent group. When Keir Starmer speaks out, he doesn't speak out just as Keir Starmer, he speaks out on behalf of the Labour Party because he's the leader of the Labour Party. Well, Mark Hince is the leader of the independent group. And that means he's the leader of Sandra Ball and Mark Wilkinson, who is standing in Failsworth West. Mark Hince has this to say: he has been absolutely appalled by those who whip up outrage and anger, which quickly descends into unacceptable abuse with racist and misogynistic connotations. In my view, the rhetoric aimed at individuals in the chamber, in particular the current leader, is nothing short of disgraceful. Mark Hince is claiming AROOJ SHAH is a victim of racism, and he supports AROOJ SHAH. What's he promised you, Mark? What's he promised the independent group? From this point onwards, the independent group are the enemy. The independent group are the enemy because the independent group are openly working with Hince, and the independent group are openly working with AROOJ SHAH and the Labour Party to demonise decent white people in this town and portray them as racists and far-right activists. That is what Mark Hince is doing. So Mark Hince, Sandra Ball, Mark Wilkinson and anyone else who stands with the independent group are enemy to the people. They are portraying you as far-right racists. That is Mark Hince of Shaw. Councillor Mark Hince of Shaw is supporting AROOJ SHAH and claiming you are far-right racists and misogynists. He's not a victim of stupidity, mate. He's a victim of malice. He's a malicious man. He can't show us the proof. His nose seems very red at the moment, Denise. Mark Hince is claiming we are racists. And as Sandra Ball supports him, Sandra Ball is claiming white people are racist. The white people who object to the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of children are racists. Mark Wilkinson, by default, because he belongs to this group, Mark Hince is the leader, is claiming white people who object to the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of children, not just white people, myself, any of us, are far-right and racists. This is the leader, Mark Hince, black and white, making this allegation against us. No other opposition councillor got involved or wanted to say anything or defend Shah. Not even Shah's own councillors came out to defend Shah. But Mark Mince turned up and issued a statement attacking you, attacking me as racist and far-right and misogynist. This is the same Mark Hince who once on the planning committee voted a development on the Greenbelt. This is the same Mark Hince who once on the planning committee betrayed the people of Lees and passed through an inappropriate development behind a pub that local people objected to. We elected independents to represent us across the board, not get in bed with Labour. Well, here we have someone who is in bed with Labour. His name is Mark Hince and he represents the independent group, former Labour Party member, represents the independent group, and he is the leader of a group that includes Sandra Ball and Mark Wilkinson. Mark Wilkinson is standing for election in Failsworth West. When he comes knocking on your door, ask him, are you a racist? Because his leader believes you're a racist. His leader, Mark Hince, believes you're a racist. So ask Mark Wilkinson, ask Sandra Ball, ask Catherine Charnock, when she comes knocking on your door in Failsworth East, are you a racist? For objecting to the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of little girls in the town. Are you a racist for asking where all the millions have gone? And this council finds itself on the verge of bankruptcy. Are you a racist for objecting to AROOJ SHAH and her style of leadership? Anyone in Shaw who is listening, anyone in Crompton who is listening, should not go anywhere near Mark Mince and the independent group. You're not racist. I have friends in Shaw, I have friends in Crompton. You feel the same way as I do. We're not racist challenging AROOJ SHAH. We're not racist, we're not far right, and we will not support Mark Mince, Sandra Ball, Mark Wilkinson. And who have they got standing? It's a husband and wife team, haven't they? They got standing in Shaw and Crompton. Yeah, no, the wood houses was the Greenbelt one, and Leeds was the car park, Tony. Mince voted it through. Man votes to vote, build on the Greenbelt. Ignore local objection in Leeds. And of course, this is the man who amended a motion on the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of children, and amended a motion where every opposition councillor voted against his amendment, and what he amended it to, and there's no ambiguity, was to water it down and allow the council to interfere in a judge-led inquiry's terms of reference. Allow the council to interfere. And as is the pattern, here we've got David Taylor, a man called David Taylor, who posts on Facebook when I shared this story, attacking me. What a load of bullshit. Do you just make these things up as you go along? Well, it's a matter of fact. I got the quote off the bloody newspaper. Why the hell would a deal be done with Labour and you haven't got a clue about the support that has been been given to survivors of CSE? Of course I have a clue about the supporters who've given to survivors of CSE, because I'm the one who led the campaign. David Taylor. David Taylor then goes on and ranting and raving, slagging people on your live feeds, but can't even make eye contact when you see people to face. I'm not the one who's hiding. I go and see people face to face. What do you mean I can't make eye contact? I'll make eye contact with you, David Taylor. The problem with David Taylor is Mark Wilkinson's son-in-law. He's married to Kath Wilkinson's daughter. I question whether David Taylor is actually writing this himself. My way or the highway? What do you mean my way or the highway, David Taylor? Your father-in-law was involved in attempting to amend a motion that would sabotage a call for a judge-led inquiry. That's a matter of fact. Every opposition councillor voted against it. What have I actually achieved in the past 5 years? More than you have in your entire life, David Taylor. I'd wager I've achieved more than you have in your entire life. The people of Failsworth should be ashamed of themselves if they now go out and vote for Mark Wilkinson, whilst he remains with Mark Hince and the independent group, pushing this narrative that you, me and everyone else are racist and far-right activists because we refuse to shut up over the grooming and gang rape of our town's children. Because that is what Mark Hince is alleging in supporting AROOJ SHAH. Because I was at that meeting, the same as many of you were. And what were we upset at? We didn't call anyone a racist name. We were upset that we sat down for over 4 hours and Eddie Moores wouldn't allow Councillor Brian Hoban, to speak on his motion. And that was after all the filibustering that had taken place by AROOJ SHAH and their mates. At one point, remember earlier on, right from the beginning, Pete Davis stood up and started talking at length about Fryer no longer being a councillor and how he's a Chelsea fan. All of that was on purpose. All of that was to waste time. So if any one of you know David Taylor, tell him to do one. Or go back to his management. Go back to his wife. I suspect it's his wife who tells him what to write, or his mother-in-law. I don't dictate what other people do. I share my views and opinions on the people we elected, who promised us that they would stand alongside us and support us. And if they betray us like Mark Hince has done, how can a man like that, go and claim AROOJ SHAH is a victim of racism? And somehow we're responsible. We're responsible for the racism. MARC HINCE finishes with, both myself and my family have recently been the target of hate-filled abuse by out-of-town commentators with their own agendas, who generally using emotive issues to enrage public outcry for their own ends. What's my own end? My own end, declared from the beginning, is to remove Labour Party from control of Oldham Council, something that MARC HINCE agreed with. My own end is a public inquiry into the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of our town's children, something MARC HINCE agreed with. My own end is to get the council books open, the auditors moved in, and people arrested if they're found to have fiddled the books, stolen money of our public assets, or awarded dodgy grants. Something MARC HINCE agreed with. Now MARC HINCE finds himself in power, along with SANDRA BALL. Mark Wilkinson, who wants to get in power off the back of this independent group. It's an absolute joke. Some councillors have expressed fears that tensions both online and offline are reaching boiling point. Who are these councillors? Who are some councillors? Charlotte Hall has just made that up. Some councillors have expressed fears. You know who they should be expressing fears to? The police. If they've got any evidence, they should be going to the police. Not that we expect the police to do anything other than arrest myself and maybe one or two of you if you speak out of term. And it looks like that you'll influence an outcome of an election. The LDRS reached out to a number of opposition leaders, but they declined to comment on the record. No, they declined to comment on and off the record. This Charlotte Hall is going to go the same way as Charlotte Green. And here, by the way, is the planning committee names. Mark Mince is no longer on the planning committee. Kicked off the planning committee. Remember, there was a standards complaint. He was investigated because he named someone who put in a planning application as a convicted drug dealer or something. People can put in planning applications. They're passed. There's no, you know, if someone wants an extension on their house, their background has no bearing on, you know, what they did 5 years, 10 years, 20 years ago has no bearing on if they want an extension on their house. But he's been took off. The independent group now, because there's two of them, are finished. And Wilkinson will not win. Mark Wilkinson will not win whilst he remains with a group who are claiming that decent white working class folk who object to the cover up of the grooming and gang rape of children are racist. Let me get to the front of this. So this is some of the this is the dossier. Sorry, I'll print out. I'll share the letter she's done. I'll share the letter she's done first. And I want to highlight. Can you see it all? I'm going to highlight. This is the email that went out. I'm going to highlight a number of allegations that are completely unsubstantiated and fabricated. If you're finding value in this transmission, please like, please share. There's 115 of you watching. Thank you for the super chat, sir. Sorry if I'm slow, it's Ramadan, and this does take a lot out of me. Dear councillors, a week on from full council, I wanted to write to share with you the very real impact of the sort of politics we saw play out in the council chamber last week. During the meeting, a number of members played to an aggressive and abusive audience. The mayor is on record as saying the audience was well behaved. The mayor is on record on that. These are people who regularly share lies and conspiracy theories online. AROOJ SHAH hangs off the arm of a convicted heroin dealer, who is Dale Cregan's getaway driver. That is not a lie nor a conspiracy theory. If there were lies, I would have been convicted in a court of law. I have not been convicted in a court of law. Which seeks to dehumanise me and further a campaign of harassment. Harassment is unlawful. If we had been harassing her, we would have been arrested. We're not dehumanising her. We want to deselect her. We want to remove her from power. That's what we were trying to do to her. It's normal. It happens at a national level and international level. If there are politicians we don't like, as citizens in a democracy, we have a right to campaign against them. We're not campaigning against AROOJ SHAH because of what she decides, whether she likes samosas or mango chutney. We're objecting to AROOJ SHAH because of her role in the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of children. We're objecting to AROOJ SHAH because of the company she keeps, convicted gangsters. We're objecting to AROOJ SHAH because of her mannerisms and the demeanour and the way in which she conducts herself in public. We're objecting to AROOJ SHAH because the council is on the verge of bankruptcy. We're objecting to AROOJ SHAH because of the way in which she prioritises certain communities over another. We're objecting to AROOJ SHAH because of the way she plays one community off against the other. Nowhere are we objecting to AROOJ SHAH because she's Pakistani, or because she's a Muslim, or because she's a woman. Those identity markers are of a complete irrelevance to us. During the meeting, members of the opposition joined in with booing and heckling led by those in the public gallery. The public gallery responded to what the councillors were saying. So it wasn't led by those in the public gallery. The booing and heckling and the talking back to AROOJ SHAH and her associates was led by the councillors. This booing was aimed only at me. Who was in that council meeting with me? Did we boo Eddie Moores? Did we boo Eddie Moores? Did we boo Harry Caffrell? We booed a number of councillors. The booing was not only aimed at AROOJ SHAH. And booing is not racism, is it? I was called a liar by opposition councillors. That's because you're a liar. Hold on. You're a politician. People call politicians liars all the time. If you can't handle being called a liar and you're a politician, you're in the wrong game. These allegations now being repeated online and are fueling threats and abuse. So these allegations are now being repeated online and are fueling threats and abuse. We'll quantify that in a minute. And finally, one opposition councillor who regularly makes nods to online theories about corruption in relation to me and this council felt able to boldly repeat the conspiracies they have been spreading within these online groups in a chamber. Again, this is fueling further online abuse and threats. AROOJ SHAH, I'm going to say it now here. Sue me. Sue me, AROOJ SHAH. You went to the Blue Tiffin and attempted to obtain CCTV footage of myself meeting with Lewis Quigg before the elections, or around about the time of the elections that Robert Barnes got elected, because we are devising and running the campaign through which we would remove you from power. You went to the Blue Tiffin and spoke to Jack, the guy who owns it, who's a friend of your, whose wife is one of your friends, and tried to use that relationship to obtain CCTV footage, and he sent you away. And not long afterwards, the Blue Tiffin was attacked by the council with a 1-star rating, and the Oldham Times ripped it to pieces in the press in a way it's never done to any other restaurant. I'll let you decide whether that was a coincidence. Apparently, what Lewis has been saying, because he's the opposition councillor, is further fueling online abuse and threats. Let's quantify this. Let's see if it plays out. These behaviours, those who condone it on the same benches and those who support motions and debate further this narrative, encourage, enable and embolden online racists and abusers. We took a motion for a judge-led inquiry. The motions we supported that you're claiming, that AROOJ SHAH is claiming, enables, emboldens online racists and abusers, was a motion calling for a judge-led inquiry into the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of working-class white children in our town. AROOJ SHAH not only voted down the motion, she led a council that filibustered that prevented debating the motion. If people are angry, they're not angry because they're racists. People are angry because of your actions. They legitimize the allegations which are made against me online and drive the racist conspiracy theories that fuel the daily barrage of abuse that I and other elected members face. Can't evidence the daily barrage of abuse. There was a reason that in 2021 I asked for your support to ensure local politics was focused on policy and not personality. What on earth does that even mean? So if you're an obnoxious individual, we can't object to your personality being obnoxious. If you're aggressive, if you're hostile, if you're derogatory, if you don't like, pets, dogs, don't like gay people, we can't criticize your personality. Apparently, the abuse and targeting has real consequences. So what are the real consequences? We don't know. Attached to this email are just some of the abusive, racist and threatening messages shared online about me over the past week or so. These are not exhaustive. Yes, they are, because she's dragged everything possible she can find. She's gone and dragged everything possible she can find, and I'll go through the attachments she shared. I am left feeling afraid for my safety and the safety of my family. No one's threatened her. No one's threatened her family. Remember AROOJ SHAH's childhood friend, Irish Immi, boyfriend, lover, whatever he is, childhood friend she claims, followed me home. Had mobsters follow me home. And he was convicted in a court of law. He was given a restraining order and then he breached his restraining order and attempted to harass me further, and he was convicted again. Her childhood friend is facing trial in August. Possession of an offensive weapon and criminal damage are the charges he's facing. I realise that some of you will once again claim I am playing the victim in raising this with you, and it's for this reason I've avoided doing so before. But the acceptance of racial abuse that we're showing in that chamber, so she's claiming the racial abuse is in the chamber. There was no racial abuse in that chamber. The normalisation of jokes about samosas and mango chutney aimed at Asian councillors, no. We started off by aiming the samosas and mango chutney at the white politician Jim Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon, who used samosas and mango chutney to, the securing of postal votes. That's where samosas and mango chutney are. It comes from. And sorry, I do enjoy a samosa. I'm not keen on the mango chutney, but I do enjoy a samosa. And this is the rest of the crap that's in the Oldham Times article. So Paul Errott put this up. The first set of abuse, racist, threatening, whatever, comes as a consequence of what Paul did. Paul didn't do anything wrong. He put up a link to the council meeting online. He didn't even put a comment on. He put up a link to the council meeting online. And clearly there was some comment somewhere about a public inquiry. And Joe Gaffney said, and I don't agree with Joe, never happened while the council is run and led by the community doing the child abuse. If Joe understood anything of what was going on, he would know that the campaign to expose the cover-up is led by me, a Muslim. But Joe's ignorance isn't racist or far right or in any way directing. And maybe he meant the community as the Labour community. Who knows? This is moderator is Mark Birchall. Just remember, the council isn't there to serve you, it's there to serve themselves and their mates. Just pay your extortionate council tax and be happy, from Chris Edwards. There's nothing racist there, is there, in that comment? Ramadan my arse. This is bloody Oldham, Lancashire, in case anyone has forgotten. Ian Dunn. I've told you about the trap. They used Ramadan to try and draw out racism, so they can claim they were victims of racism. Ian clearly has fallen for it, because it had nothing to do with Ramadan. If you saw in the meeting, the breaking of fast had nothing to do with why the motion wasn't debated or why they voted against it. They filibustered in the time they had, and they prevented Councillor Hoban from speaking, and all the white councillors, Labour councillors, also blocked it. Holly Harrison, Eddie Moores, Ross Birch, they all were involved. Alan Taylor's wrong. They have used Ramadan, so they won't have time to answer all. You can kid some other people some of the time, but you know, blah, blah, blah. Half an hour adjournment for Ramadan, Dougie Dunk. You can see. Even if you fell into the trap, none of these comments are racist or misogynistic or far right or in any way an attack on AROOJ SHAH. I don't agree with these comments because I think you're falling into the trap of allowing Ramadan to be used as a reason why this wasn't debated. And if I was a moderator on this page, by the way, I can't even see this page, I would have explained, as you see I do. When I come across stuff on the Recusant 9 page, if I can, if I don't miss it, if I miss it, my apologies, but when I come across it, I don't feel the racism. Asian councillors in that council chamber voted, Muslim councillors in that council chamber voted in support of a judge-led inquiry. This had nothing to do with Ramadan. Here's a Highgate Oldham Council and GMP. Joe Gaffney's on again. No investigation will take place. Why? Because community relations is more important. No, Joe. If Joe knew anything about the work we've done for the last 5 years, he would know that community relations has been used as an excuse to demonise ethnic minority communities, to put white against black, black against white, whilst the Labour Party get away with it and the sex offenders get away with it. This had nothing to do with community relations because no one in my community wants to hide paedophiles or child sex offenders. So Joe's wrong again. Any chance we had as a nation of turning things around went long ago. Mark Carr. I don't agree with what he believes because I think we haven't lost our nation, we haven't lost our town, we haven't lost our country, and we need to fight for it. And we fight for it by going out and voting, going out and lobbying, going out and, putting up candidates. The reality in Rochdale and Oldham is that certain community is actively practicing child abuse as they see it as normal. Fuck off, Joe. Fuck right off. No one I know sees it as normal. That is racism. It's not on my page. But that is racism. But he's not attacking AROOJ SHAH, is he? He's not attacking AROOJ SHAH. It's a bigoted, ignorant, racist position to hold. But it's not attacking AROOJ SHAH. Now going on to Twitter. Manchester Evening News link. It's not mine. Shouldn't these people be investigated? Are some of them fifth columnists working against the interests of the United Kingdom? I don't know. I find that bizarre. Far-fetched, possibly. He's tagged in MI5 official. I don't know who George is. But he's on Twitter. He's not attacking AROOJ SHAH. He's not directing racism at her, is he? On my page, Bob and Jahan had an disagreement. This is in January. 26th of January. Look at the date. This is how desperate she got. Jahan called out Bob. They had a disagreement. Bob reckoned that the ethnic background is responsible. Jahan, who's one of my supporters, said no. People from our ethnic background are fighting this. And he made reference to Bob as having a racist view. And that was the exchange. 26th of January. None of it is directed at AROOJ SHAH. And this predates the council meeting. This predates the council meeting that he's referring to. Look at the date, 26th of January. Muslims will always support other Muslims' aims and ambitions in following Allah's edicts regardless of UK law. Ponty Boy on Twitter, in response to something I'd posted, he's criticising me. He's not criticising AROOJ SHAH. I'm the Muslim here. He's claiming I'm the one. But again, where's the racism? Muslims will always support other Muslims' aims and ambitions in following Allah's edicts, regardless of UK law. It's a valid viewpoint to have. I read it and I shrugged my shoulders. I said, all right. He's not calling me an F in this or that. He's not asked for me to be killed. It's not a view I agree with, and if I spent time with him in real life, hopefully his view towards me would evolve. But again, where's the direct racism, extremism, the things that Mark Hince supported? Where is it? Have you seen any of it towards AROOJ SHAH? I've not seen it, have you? She should be deported. Throwaway comment. A racist? Yeah, possibly. Does anyone take that seriously? A comment like that? Is those 4 words anything to feel threatened by? Of course not. We accept there are people in this country with views and opinions, and James, for all I know, isn't from this country. No idea. It's on Twitter. But saying someone should be deported, she's suggesting she's suffered far worse, isn't she? She's got this out, and this is very interesting. She wants her ears ripping off and her throat cutting for telling lies. Neil Richardson. Have a look at this. There's no date on this. There's no time on this. There's absolutely nothing on it. And this is on Facebook, by the way, isn't it? Like, reply with a thumbs up. Whose thread is it on? If it was on my thread, she'd have made sure my picture was on there and he's replying to me. She wants her. Who is the she he's referring to? How do you know he's referring to AROOJ SHAH? Do you see? These people are smart. They do this on purpose. AROOJ SHAH and her mates, because if there was an evidence trail here, that thread would be there. But there's no thread, there's not even a date when this was done, or who he's referring to. And whoever he's referring to is wrong, because we've been very clear right from the beginning that we will win this at the ballot box. So that was Paul's comment. The most corrupt woman in Oldham Council. The town is ruined through her and her cronies. Give it 'em, Libbo. Where's she getting her fillers and Botox from? Just so I know to stay clear. On whose account? Come on. This isn't racism. People don't like her. And they're mocking her. And they have every right to mock her. They don't like her associates. She hangs off the arm of a convicted heroin dealer. That will draw criticism, and it has every right to draw criticism. She's not calling her names here. She's mocking her. She's not racially abusing her. Lisa isn't racially abusing anyone. Neither's Lindsay Curley. The Neil Richardson comment was 3 years ago. Well, thank you. 3 years ago. Chicken shops and illegally parked food delivery clowns isn't a night-time economy. Simon Wynne. I agree with him. Chicken shops and illegally parked food delivery clowns isn't a night-time economy. The council agrees with him. With Simon. It's too narrow an offer for our high street, Yorkshire Street, our main nighttime street. The parking is a problem. Even one of the councillors in this year's council, one of this year's council meetings stood up and agreed it was an issue. Where's the racism from Simon? There isn't any. Where's the direction towards AROOJ SHAH and the hate? There isn't any. Ian Dunn, time for a national parliamentary debate on postal vote fraud. I agree. I've been leading that. She's a Muslim woman. I don't think they know what International Women's Day is. Now, whilst I disagree with Kev Burkett, I understand where he gets that view from, particularly as AROOJ SHAH is routinely pictured with groups of exclusive men. This picture is 3 years old. She's put this up. It's Harry Cafferel with AROOJ SHAH as the puppet. And it was designed by Ali Akbar off the back of how AROOJ SHAH always reads the script that's prepared for her by the council. There's nothing racist here. Should AROOJ SHAH resign due to lying to the council and the people of Oldham over housing targets? She blatantly lied. What's racist there? Here is AROOJ SHAH when this started. Mohammed Nadeem, her friend. I'm not into politics, AROOJ, but we go back a long, long way. If anyone, and I mean anyone, gives you grief in any form of way, just give us a shout and believe me, they won't be voting ever again. That is the offer of murder. That is the offer of murder by Mohammed Nadeem. To which AROOJ SHAH, the leader of Oldham Council, replies, oh, thank you. I'm blessed to have friends like you. In black and white. Here is her SPAD, her special political advisor, Irish Imi. Last year. His hashtag, FUCK the Tories. And councillors who disagreed with him or didn't support AROOJ SHAH, he warned them that they'd be getting it. I'll leave you to decide what a convicted heroin dealer and a getaway driver for a cop killer means by it. But you can see the hashtag FUCK the Tories. You know what she did as a consequence of that? She went and had a picture with him on the day she won, as some sort of family portrait with her brother, an Irish Imi and herself, at Mocktails 24. She's never distanced herself from any of this. Here, look. Wasn't just once. F-U-C-K the Tories. Crocodile tears, telling lies, her speciality. Crying wolf. Who blew up your car, AROOJ SHAH? The people of Oldham have a right to continue asking that question. Who blew up your car? And MARC HINCE, the so-called independent from Shaw, the independent group, leader of the independent group, alongside SANDRA BALL and Mark Wilkinson, should be ashamed of themselves for believing this nonsense. Because that's the dossier that she sent out. And they know this is what she said. So the question is, what is MARC HINCE up to? And I can only share with you what I've been able to put together. MARC HINCE wants to become a player. And once we get the Labour Party into no overall control, and I'm saying it now, so we can put pressure on him and his team, they will prop up the Labour Party. They'll prop up the Labour Party. A vote for the independent group is a vote for Labour. A vote for the independent group is a vote to demonise decent people in this town that they have been trying for the last 5 years to portray as far right and racists. A vote for Mark Wilkinson is a vote for AROOJ SHAH. A vote for for Catherine Charnock is a vote for AROOJ SHAH. Because their leader, MARC HINCE, is now openly endorsing AROOJ SHAH and amplifying her complete fabrications. Mark Wilkinson only has one choice now. He's got to distance himself from the independent group and MARC HINCE. And if he doesn't, the people of Failsworth, I'm sure, are not stupid, and they will make their own mind up as to what's going on. If you're finding value in this transmission, please press like, please press share. There's 144 of you who've been watching me live or on and off at some point today. The analysis I provide takes this town into a better place because it challenges these people. It challenges the narrative. And I don't hide behind fake accounts and fake profiles. You all know who I am. Agreed, David. I'm sure the police know who blew up a car. The problem is they don't like the answer. Or perhaps it's Andy Burnham who doesn't like the answer. Okay, quickly moving on. A couple of last things to do before we... George Galloway has announced his candidate for Oldham East and Saddleworth. Her name is Shahnaz Sadiq. She's some sort of TV personality in Pakistan, sort of thing. Clearly got a history somewhere else. I don't care. You shouldn't care. Don't get yourselves involved. Ignore it. Don't criticise her. Don't get yourself involved. Shahnaz Sadiq standing in Oldham East means votes will be taken off Dirty Debbie. Debbie Abrahams, Debbie Kashmir. Let votes get took off Debbie Abrahams. It's now up to the Conservatives, if they've got any common sense, to put up a decent candidate in Oldham East and take Oldham East. As Debbie's Muslim votes, the rug will be pulled from underneath her feet. Kashmiri rug? Kashmiri rug, yeah, will be pulled from underneath her feet. So please don't get involved in criticising this woman. Don't get involved in the George Galloway thing. Galloway is a good thing in the Muslim communities, because through Galloway and through the stuff in Gaza, the Muslim communities are seeing exactly how they were betrayed, in the same way the white working class have come to realise how they've been betrayed over the cover-up of the grooming gangs. Leave them to it. Here is the Medlock Vale Labour candidate as AROOJ Shah. They're trying to play the pro-Palestinian cards. This is the official Labour Party leaflet. They should be ashamed of themselves. This is leader of Oldham Council, AROOJ Shah. This is the official Labour Party leaflet. Trying to portray herself as pro-Palestinian. What about what's going on in Oldham? No. Like many people in Oldham and across the world, I'm devastated to see the horrors being suffered by innocent civilians in Gaza and Israel. It talks absolute nonsense. Let me see if I can flip that round. Sorry, I'm not sure why. There you go. Just give me 1 second. Let me just fix this. Here you go. This is the actual leaflet. Our calls for a ceasefire in Gaza. Complete lies, fabrications. Oldham Labour made a decision to fly the borough's peace flag to show our solidarity with all those affected. No, they didn't. They flew the peace flag because they didn't have an Israeli flag, because the instructions from the government was to fly the Israeli flag in response to the September the 7th attacks. Oldham Labour issues a statement calling for humanitarian aid to go to Gaza. Absolute nonsense. Mayor Andy Burnham, Councillor AROOJ Shah and the other 10 GM leaders call for an immediate ceasefire. Absolute nonsense. Councillor Shah makes a statement to the council chamber for peace and the right for all to feel safe. Absolute nonsense. But this is the bit you should all be very, very concerned by. The Labour Party are now using a letter by the mayor and all the opposition leaders, including Brian Hoban, for party political gain. The way politics works in councils is the mayor sits above, or is meant to sit above. So when a mayor writes something, it can't be used for party political purposes. Now, AROOJ Shah is using the mayor's letter for party political purposes. That was signed and supported by all opposition leaders is complete desperation. Of course, Oldham Labour MPs Jim McMahon and Debbie Abrahams, contrary to what they claim, one abstained on the ceasefire and then got promoted as a consequence back into the shadow cabinet, and the other one was caught out going to a party and then released a video just for a Muslim audience and didn't put it on her own Twitter account because she wanted to play off one group against the other. That's the truth of what happened. What I find highly objectionable is this is the official leaflet by Medlock Vale. Not a single word of what's going on in Medlock Vale or in Oldham. Appalling. Absolutely appalling. I've got his voicemails. I've not shared them yet, Jack. I'm looking forward to seeing whether Mark Wilkinson stays with them, and if he continues to stay with them, then maybe I will share them. Because what I've done today, Jack, if you missed most of it, is I have demonstrated how Mark Hince is in bed with AROOJ Shah. He's supporting her malicious claims that decent white people in this town are racist and far-right activists, and that is not the truth. It never has been the truth, and it never will be the truth. There is a cross-community alliance now, stronger than ever, who all object to the cover-up and all want to see the politicians, the policy officers, the press and the police officers imprisoned for what they did. There was no community relations involved. No community I know wanted these men protected. Please, if you find value, consider buying me a coffee. I put this out free to her because Louise asked me to put it out free to her. I've been on for an hour and a half. I'm losing my voice. I will try and come back after Easter Sunday. I won't be here on Easter Sunday. I'll try and come back on the Monday or the Tuesday. There's a web page, a newsletter. Some of you subscribe, most of you don't. 75 pence a week is how I earn my living. Please, if you can, subscribe to the newsletter. Please, if you can, consider buying me a coffee, either through the Buy Me a Coffee link or through PayPal. People can call me all the names they want. People can say I've achieved nothing. I'm this, I'm that, I'm something else. But you know the truth and I know the truth. Without these transmissions, without this platform and without my work, this fight is lost.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011, he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.